This is me.
Just kidding. This is me.
My name is Amanda, and welcome to my podcast where I will be talking about pop culture, music,
Film, drama, and fan videos. Hello and welcome back to my channel, Always Popular. I'm Amanda, your host, and let's jump into this week's episode. You may have heard of the era of Justin Bieber copy clones, but what about the male solo artists that had the same peak in popularity before him? Before 2010, when many people were all about Justin Bieber, there was another Justin in music, Justin Timberlake. Since the early 2000s, Justin Timberlake was the blueprint model for R&B pop music, especially when it comes to male artists who once had a preteen fan base and wanted to be taken seriously as an artist. Since other male artists have tried to have a similar sound to him, however, no one has been as commercially successful as him. Today we're going to be talking about the impact and influence of Justin Timberlake and how his sound of R&B pop was the blueprint model for success.
You ready?
When it comes to boy bands, there's always one person that stands out and that has that factor about their personality. Around the time of 2002, Justin Timberlake proved to be that person. With his debut album, Justified, he made his mark into the music world as a solo R&B artist with a twist of pop. During the hiatus of NSYNC, one of the biggest boy bands of the early 2000s, also known as the boy band mania years, Justin decided he wanted to go solo instead of going back to his boy band sound. He managed to transition really well into this mature adult R&B sound. His first album, Justified, did really well and had major success with timeless hit songs like Cry Me a River and Rock Your Body. His album got nominated for 4 Grammys. The album had a cool, slick sound and had undeniable beats and hooks. Alongside with the music, his voice complemented the sound really well. Since then, he has been referred to as the Prince of Pop. According to Billboard, he is the best-selling male soloist in history of mainstream top 40, along with many other accolades. And amazingly, this album was recorded and done in 6 weeks. This debut, he was credited as a new king of mainstream music with a mature sound in R&B music. Even today, there are male artists that try to do the same model as him and aren't nearly as successful as him. There's just something special about the way Justin's music was made and was presented to the general public. He had the look and dance moves to back it up as well. Also, he did have the mastermind help of Timberlake, which shaped his sound since his career started. I feel that Timberlake is a big reason of why Justin is so successful. Since the 2000s, they have been an undeniable duo. Also, Pharrell Williams was a part of the Neptunes back then and helped produce some of Justin's early music as well. Now, before I jump into the copy clones, I just want to point out Usher will not be a part of this list just because he dominated R&B and pop music the same years that Justin did. He was his own artist and is a trailblazer himself in different ways. Anyway, the first male artist that had a similar sound to Justin was Jesse McCartney, also a boy band member himself by the time he was 13 in the band called Dream Street. He also transitioned into a more mature sound by the time the band ended in 2002 and created his first album in 2004 with Beautiful Soul. However, it wasn't until his third album, Departure, when he had a drastic change in sound with more heavily influenced R&B and soul music. And some of that music has become his best-selling music, with dance hits like Leavin', Body Language, My Baby, and How Do You Sleep. It proves the R&B mature sound worked well for Jesse. However, he's still not as big as Justin and is completely overshadowed and underrated. And also, to be completely fair, I feel that Jesse's marketing team has failed him because he deserves a lot better. And also, he's not that much of a copy clone of Justin anyway because Jesse has a very distinct voice and is a naturally good dancer. Next, it would be Justin Bieber himself when he tried to break away from bubblegum pop music from the annoyingly overly played Baby and One Less Lonely Girl. From his part 2 of his debut album, he was transitioning into more of a mature sound with R&B as well. I immediately thought of him as a teeny bopper version of Justin when he first came out. Well, kind of was. Eventually, when he came out with Boyfriend, he would be seen as more of an adult artist, and of course he had to deal with a lot of criticism and lots of growing up to do in the public eye. Justin said himself he wanted to do R&B to showcase his vocals and to do something different. I gotta admit, he may be more popular than JT. However, no offense, he's still no JT either. He can't dance, not nearly as good, and at least JT is a lot more likable and has a down-to-earth personality. Sadly, it is also rumored in real life that Justin Bieber is conceited and is an asshole in real life too. Now, Now, next onto another personal favorite of mine, Nick Jonas. When Nick was younger, he was an already established Broadway singer and actor by the time he was 11. So already he had an impressive resume by then. He had a baby face and baby voice when he did his first debut album in 2005, before the popularity of the Jonas Brothers, with songs like Dear God, Appreciate, and Joy to the World. He had a pretty solid debut attempt. However, now as a grown adult, around the time of 2014, he released more of adult-like sound as well, with radio hits like Jealous, Chains, and even Levels. He proved that he can be taken seriously as a solo artist and not a Disney teeny bopper. He also proved people wrong because he could dance as well as belt out a song, with examples like Close as a contemporary dance. And at least on the bright side, his music didn't seem forced. It sounded genuine coming from him. Now, speaking of guys who can belt out a tune, another notable singer would be Zayn. If you're familiar with Zayn Malik, it's either for two reasons: for being a One Direction fan, or knowing that he was the first person to leave One Direction to go solo. Forget about Harry for a minute, because stylistically it's Zayn, who's more like JT. However, he's not the only one. When announced he was going solo, technically he said he wanted to have more of a private lifestyle. When March of 2016 came around, so did Mind of Mind. Earlier in the year, he released Pillow Talk in January of the same year, and his first song did really well. He broke streaming records and already had earned his first #1 hit song. He had a huge year in the year 2016, with being the first British male artist to debut at #1 in the US and in the UK. He also became the first British male artist to get a #1 album with his first album, so you could say 2016 was Zayn's year. On the plus side, it helped him earn some awards on his own, like New Artist of the Year at the American Music Awards as well. Despite Zayn having social anxiety and not doing shows, he still manages to be successful even if he decides not to go in person. Now moving on to Zayn's bandmate, Liam Payne. After the 18 months that One Direction was just supposed to be on a break, everyone else wanted to do stuff on their own. Liam himself has done some solo stuff too, with his debut single Strip That Down. I honestly thought that it was a very basic, generic dance song. I thought he was trying too hard to be like JT as well. No shade to Liam, however I am a fan of him, but not his solo music. I felt like he didn't have his own unique sound and sounded like three different people. He felt like a cross between Jason Derulo and JT. However, over the years, I felt like his music didn't really improve. Honest, there's nothing impressive about his solo style or music, no offense. His style is not my cup of tea, but he's still very talented. But I would prefer his voice in One Direction music instead. And there's always a reason why certain people are meant to be in a band rather than going solo. And sadly, I feel that Liam is one of those people. Well, at least on the bright side, all of them had a chance to be in a band and still be successful solo, whether if any of them became huge or not solo-wise. Do you know how many people wish to be successful in music and aren't? They're all lucky to be successful in a boy band in the first place. However, since the early 2000s, it still seems like no one can come close to what JT did back then. And no matter what bands come along, you're always going to hear the question, hey, do you think that I'll be the JT of the group? That has been going on for a very long time, and the fact that he's even quoted about that because of his status is pretty amazing. Justin has had big hit songs that people still remember until this day, and he was secretly a hidden trailblazer back then, whether if we knew that or not. And never forget, there's only one person that can bring sexy back, and that's JT.
Sexy back. Yeah. The mother boys don't know how to act.
And thanks for listening and watching, and you'll hear me in the next episode.